Show. I am your host, Jon Stewart, and you know what? You know what? Come here. Come here. Come here.
All right, folks, buckle up. Jon Stewart is here to take Democrats to task in his signature satirical style, mixing sharp humor with biting critique. He tackles why Democrats lost ground, their billion-dollar war chest, and the questionable strategies they use to fight the so-called culture war. We'll get into his jabs at their obsession with wokeness, their failed voter outreach, and how they've alienated key groups. It's Stewart at his most relentless, and, spoiler alert, he's not holding back.
But if you remember, the last time that we spoke, it was midnight on election night. And it seemed even at that moment very clear Donald Trump had won the election in a bit of a thumpening. See, the Democrats in a 50-50 election had $1 billion, a war chest to be spent on data analytics and polling and consultants.
$1 billion wasted on consultants and fancy analytics that apparently forgot to include actual voters in the equation. How do you burn that kind of cash and lose to a guy who spends campaign rallies rifling on windmills? If the Democrats wanted to find a way to look completely out of touch, congratulations, they nailed it.
The $1 billion went towards the one thing Republicans didn't have, couldn't have, that would put the Democrats over the top.
The Harris campaign has a massive ground game, 50,000 volunteers.
But the reason why, and I give them some shit for their strategies, but there was a method to the Democrats' madness.
Democracy and freedom are on the ballot.
Our democracy is on the line.
We have to protect democracy.
Ah, yes, the democracy is on the line speech. Great messaging, except it clearly did not inspire enough actual voters. It is hard to take the moral high ground about democracy when you are hemorrhaging support in key demographics like Latinos and the working class. Maybe, just maybe, less pontificating about abstract ideals and more focus on putting food on the table. Just a thought.
We have to work even harder to make sure that we defend our democracy.
We don't get to choose when we're asked to defend democracy.
Democrats have been planning on every one of these options for 4 years. Are Democrats ready? You bet they are.
We have county clerks ready to go, secretaries of state ready to go.
So it's all lined up. What are we forgetting, people? Oh, I thought you were bringing the voters. I brought the hate has no home here posters.
This part is pure gold. Stewart perfectly skewers how Democrats spend more time virtue signaling than actually getting boots on the ground. You don't win elections by knocking on the same doors 3 times to preach about diversity. You win by connecting with people where they are. If the Democrats keep this up, the only thing they'll be winning is participation trophies.
Nobody brought the voters? Where are the voters? It turns out the election was stolen by more people voting for Donald Trump. It's quite a caper. So now, as many on the left fear the future, as they should, many others rue the past.
They spend too little time talking about the economy.
Wildly overestimated the power of the abortion issue.
They were too woke, too far to the left on transgender rights.
Stop with the virtue signaling.
Step away from woke. Focus less on who is woke and more on who is broke.
But point taken. Everyone's talking about this wokeness theory. About wokeness? I couldn't even stay woke through that whole thing. They didn't talk about pronouns. They didn't say Latin X. It was the opposite.
We can't let China steal Wisconsin jobs.
Benefits for illegal immigrants? No way. Blocking support for white farmers? I mean, look at me.
Standing with law enforcement against defunding the police.
I've owned a gun my whole life.
Let me be clear. I don't want boys playing girls' sports.
You all know me. I've never pushed for sex changes.
What a way to cap it off. Stewart savages the Democrats for leaning into Republican framing instead of defining their own identity. If your strategy is to act like the opposition, you are just going to confuse your base. And honestly, if this is what, in quote, fighting wokeism looks like, it is no wonder people are checking out. They are running scared when they should be leading boldly.
They didn't do the woke thing. They tried. They acted like Republicans for the last 4 months. They wore camo hats and went to Cheney family reunions. Democrats were mostly running against an identity that was defined for them based on a couple of months of post-George Floyd defund the police, Me Too Instagram posts from 4 years ago. What happened was the country felt like government wasn't working for them. And the Democrats in particular were taking their hard-earned money and giving it to people who didn't deserve it as much as them.
This hits at the core of the Democrats' problem, perception. Forget the wokeness debates for a second. If people think you're funneling resources to someone else while ignoring their struggles, they'll turn on you. Democrats can laugh about woke critiques all they want, but until they stop looking like elitists and start acting like problem solvers, they'll keep losing ground.
So the Democrats got shellacked. I'm sure any robust examination of better policies is very welcome. But I just want to please assure people, this isn't forever. This is the map in 1984 when Ronald Reagan won. That's the map. The only state the Democrats won was Minnesota. Yeah, everyone thought that's the end of the Democrats. But 8 years later, there was a Democrat back in office. We don't know what's going to happen in 4 years at all. The only thing that is certain is this.
You all know me. I've never pushed for sex changes.
Jon Stewart lays it out brutally that Democrats are failing. From wasted money to bad messaging to alienating key voters, they got no one to blame but themselves. Whether it's wokeness or just plain incompetence, the takeaway is clear. Democrats need a reality check fast, or they'll be stuck playing defense for the next decade.